another DadOTron99's Fortnite Save the World video. This is not part of, well, I guess it is sort of an extension of the um, beginner's guide for Save the World. Not sure what episode this is going to be. Reason being is that I'm here in the Hestia base, and as you'll find out as you get to know me a little bit more over the course of watching videos on this channel and interacting with me a bit here on YouTube, is that on occasion I can be a bit of an idiot, and that's what happened here. Um, this is not my first time recording this video. This is my new account that I created to just do the Save the World Beginner guide. So I wanted to walk through showing what a new account to Save the World would look like. Most importantly, the things that you don't see right away when you're a new account, because not everything is revealed to you at the beginning. And there's a lot of guides out there, and it's all great content, but people that have been playing the game for 7 years, they're like level 160 players, often forget that there's lots of little things that don't appear and don't unlock for a while in the game when you're first starting. And then, obviously it went to free to play a couple days ago here on the 16th, and they introduced the Hestia base. And that was a perfect example of one of the things that was different when you're a brand new account, right? So, this is, I'm going to back up as far as I can. This is what you normally see in the Hestia base when you first start, right? We've got a couple different pieces here. You got the world map. You got things for doing quests and things in the corner there, right? You got your hero loadouts and your llamas. This is all you see. And as a new account, I'm not going to look behind me yet because that's sort of, where I can reveal. You only see this room. And when you turn around, there's normally a steel door here that's shut and you can't see anything, right? Because when we go to these missions, you haven't done the very first couple of missions in Stonewood. You're just beginning, right? You do the beginning tutorials, you do the Homebase Storm Shield Defense 1, and then when you kick back in, right, into Hestia, which is sort of the first time you drop in there, this room is locked and closed to you, right? Only when you go and complete the first fight the storm mission here, the second mission, and upon completing that mission, when you come back, outside of, you can see the rewards you get from that, right? You unlock the scouting party, you unlock the pickaxe upgrade, right? Some ranged weapon schematics. You also unlock the rest of the Hestia base. So, to be clear, as a brand new account that's played Save the World, you're stuck in this room on that first couple missions, and this door is closed. You can't go through it. And I showed that, and I did a whole video of it, and me and my son were on here playing together, but because, like I said, I'm a bit of an idiot, I, at some point, had my laptop screen was a layer that I was using in OBS, and I hid it. So the only thing that's on that video is my face talking, my son, and our gameplay sounds going on in the background, and the new Save the World loading screen layer that I had loaded on. So all that for nothing. And now that I've unlocked this door, I can never go back, short of creating a new account again, I can never go back to a point where this door was closed. So anyway, I kind of buggered that all up. So it is what it is. That's it. When you finish that mission, this door opens and you get to see the rest of the Hestia base. And the first question that, both my son and I had when we were playing this was, I'm level 56. He's probably level 20, level 20 or so, right? So, we're not end game players by any stretch, but we've been playing for 6 or 7 months. We've unlocked a lot of the core components of the game, right? And hence, we saw a lot of different pieces in the base, and we were curious that, are they just locked, right? If you're a brand new account, you see everything in the Hestia base, but you just can't access things until you unlock them? Or are they only, visually revealed as you unlock them in the game? And the short answer is it hides them until you unlock them in the game. So this looks pretty empty, and I'll split in some some footage here of my main account and what it looks like, but this is all full on my main account, right? Obviously here I'm a brand new, I'm power level 3. So it's neat that, the Hestia base reveals itself to you as you play the game. It gets filled with more survivors, right? I've only saved 2 survivors because I've just done the first couple missions, right? I've only saved 2 survivors. So the number of survivors that are in here is smaller, right? As you play the game and this goes up higher, the base becomes more and more and more populated with, the menu schematics or the menu items that you can interact with, as well as survivors that are just in the base naturally. So that's pretty cool, right? They did a great job on the Hestia base. The amount of detail in here is really fantastic. It just the immersion of being in the home base is so much cooler. Um, like it doesn't add anything functionally. So when you used to load into Save the World, you used to just start here. Yeah, you started on the menu map. You had these maps pieces in here, and that's all you saw. And it was perfectly functional and still is. Right? It works perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with this. That said, it always felt a little bit, right? It could be a little confusing for new players as to, well, sort of where am I, based out of here, and where do I go, and where should I start to begin? So it's cool that every one of these menu items in here, right? The quest, the map, all these different actions, right? The heroes, the survivors, the gadgets, um, your profile, schematics, backpack, resource, armory, all of the different menus, the 3 menu items in the exchange, right? Both the X-ray, loot, and items menus, even the shop and the V-Bucks menus, right? And the locker all have physical representations in the Hestia base. So, if you want to go do the menu system, you can, but if you want to walk to each place and just physically interact with that to get to that menu system, you can totally do that. It's just neat, right? It's just a cool aspect to the game. You can do your llamas, you can come in here. So, that said, as a brand new player, you're going to see this room only, right? You're going to be locked out of here until you do the first mission. So a little bit of the quick tour is, right, obviously here we've got our world map, right? You can choose the different missions that you want to go do in the different zones and areas that you're in. And again, this right off the bat illustrates my point that a new account will see a bunch of things, will not see a bunch of stuff that counts that have been playing for a while will. As a new account, I haven't even unlocked, all we see here is the storyline quest areas or zones, right? So we got Stonewood where you start, moving on to Plankerton, which is currently locked for me, Canny Valley, and Twine Peaks. What you don't see on here is the 2 map areas for whatever the seasonal area is, like whether it's dungeons or Horde Rush, and the venture maps, right? Those aren't on here yet because it's a new account. You have to unlock those, right? And I can't recall when you unlock them. I think it actually gets closer to the end of Stonewood, in particular, when you unlock ventures, right? So just remember that. Like when I first started playing, I saw all these videos about ventures and the venture maps, and hey, even if you're a new player, it might be worth looking at doing some of the venture maps. But I couldn't see it, right? Because I go into this view and I'm like, well, where are these venture maps? I don't see them, and they don't unlock right away. Right? I think, like I said, I don't think they unlock until towards the end of Stonewood. Same thing with those same maps around like dungeons and Horde Rush and those things. They don't unlock right away. And so the point is that that's normal and that's expected, but a lot of, streamers have been streaming for 8 years forget about that, right? So the videos get a little confusing because you're hearing about all the stuff that you should be able to go in and check them out as a new player, and you can't see most of it, right? So that's a good example. So your map is there. Your quest log is here, and we're going to take a look at the quest log. Right, we see all sorts of different pieces here. Even to this point, there are normally daily quests that you can do as part of the storyline quest, and even those haven't unlocked for me yet because I haven't done enough of the core missions, right? So there's usually some daily missions here that are a really good way of getting X-ray tickets, which you can get llamas with, but they don't unlock right off the bat, right? We've got your profile, which shows your power level. That's interesting. It says my power level is 7. But that says 3. I'd like to think that one is more correct based on what I've played, but yeah, that'd be a little bit interesting. Oh, no, what is this? Maybe slightly different. All right, so this also shows my fort level, right? Between different aspects of fortitude, offense, resilience, and attack. Okay. So it shows us what's in here. This is the llama menu. Let's go to here.
What's happening?
Llamas. We've got the V-Buck store. We've got the gold exchange. This isn't locked for me, or unlocked for me yet. It unlocks part of the way through Stonewood, but this is your hero menu. And this is the hero loadout, right? Which you can use. So obviously we've got the hero loadout, but you can also look at your individual heroes, right? And then this is expeditions, which doesn't unlock until you get a little bit later into that as well, right? When we come down here, right now what we've got unlocked is our survivors are here, right? And I've just unlocked my first survivor squad, which we talked a little bit about. And I'll have a separate video on survivor squads and how those work. And then on this side, I think the only thing that we didn't unlock anything else on this side. These unlock in time. It sort of tells you at what point and what mission, right? These ones will actually unlock. This was the audition quest to unlock. This is Storm Shield Defense, or SSD3 unlocks this. And on this side, we've got essentially the menu, the armory menu. Oops, tires. We've got the armory itself. We have the schematics and the backpack, which you can open. Okay. So it's just really cool that as you unlock pieces of the game, right, the base sort of follows that along with you, and it reveals itself over time to sort of follow the storyline and the quest line, which is, like I said, I think that's pretty cool. Okay. Now, I had done a couple of other videos, but like I said, because I'm a bit of an idiot, I had OBS correctly, and it's just my face talking and lots of game sounds that sound great, and the Save the World back loading screen going in there. So currently where I'm at, just sort of catch up to where we were. We were working through the Stonewood quest. So when you finish, you do this, Homewood Storm Shield Defense mission. You then go and do your first Fight the Storm mission. I've got a separate video that I'll post. It's not with this account, my new account, but with my old account. I have one that sort of goes through that. I'll be posting that probably tomorrow. I think that's going to be like the next major episode of the Save the World guide. I go through both a Fight the Storm and a Save the World mission. The thing to remember, though, and that's why my recording's getting messed up, is kind of annoying, is that the first time when you run these missions, you can't go back and run them again, right? Like in the quest line sets of this form. So these are guided missions. I think they're like guided. I call them guided tutorials. So Ray as a protagonist, right, as the robot, guides you through it, and they reveal certain things on the map. So it's sort of it's stepping you through the mission. They're really, really easy. It's really hard to fail these on purpose. But it sort of shows you on the map where to go find the Atlas, right? What you should do to bring it down, how the wave is going to work. It really steps you through both. Same thing with Ride the Lightning. How do you find Lars's van? How do you set it up? The fact that there are two waves with Lars's van. The first wave is usually fairly weak. The second wave lasts longer and is more difficult. So it steps you through those and sort of explains how to do some basic builds around some of those for defense. And then we go into the second page, which is Storm Shield Defense 2. And that one just sort of it takes you to your home base, right? So in the opening in the opening animation, when you first start the game, it shows the robots bringing out the first storm shield generator, dropping it in front of the base, and essentially establishing your Stonewood Homebase, this bad boy right here, right? So in the second mission for Storm Shield, it basically says, okay, build some defenses around that Storm Shield, and I'm going to throw a couple of waves of husks at you. One comes from the south and one comes from the west, right? When we go to the third page here, when we do Home-Based Storm Shield Defense 3, it's a guided tutorial mission where it shows you how to do a basic build. So it actually shows like little outlines where it wants you to place the builds, right? And lets you place a couple of traps there that it gives you. So most of these ones, if we sort of go back here, this one, the next mission here is actually the first Rescue the Survivors mission. That is a guided mission, same as Retrieve the Data, right? These are guided tutorial missions, so it sort of walks you through them just to show you what all the core mission types are and how to play them. Um, so yeah, so those are there. I think it doesn't go through till yeah, addition unlocks a few things, and then yeah, this one here, this is the encampment mission, right? Leave only footprints. This unlocks the first fight the encampments mission, and I think that's oh, and then here supply run, which is the first um, is the first supply run mission that you do, right? So I think in Stonewood does essentially introduces most of, and then you've got here we'll launch the rocket mission here. So, through the first 8 pages of Stonewood, it's just introducing the different mission types to you. So it doesn't take a lot of time to work. You work your way through the Stonewood missions. It also introduces for you here. Hey, this is the mission we just did. SST2 introduces you to getting your first X-ray tickets for buying llamas with, and then it also gives you here. It's a build off where it starts to give you where you can upgrade your builds, right? In Save the World, there are 3 material types for builds, right? There are wood, brick, and metal. But unlike Battle Royale, you can upgrade those. So you can do tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 level wood, and they progressively get stronger and they visually look different. So you unlock these build off things unlock, right? You can see here, increase building upgrade level. So that you build tier 2. And then there's a build off 2 mission here that gives you to level 3. And then it also introduces you to the other 2 hero classes. So in this mission, it gives you, I believe it gives you a couple of examples for heroes. All right, so we go take a look at our heroes and manage them. You can sort them by different classes. So right now, we've got introduced to Rescue Trooper Ramirez in tutorial missions. You get, as coming out of those, you get base Kyle as a reward, right? So so we've got our soldier class, we've got a constructor class, and again, base Kyle is early game, just overall in general, right? Is one of the best heroes in the game, in my personal opinion. Obviously, you want one that's better rarity than just common or uncommon, but either way. So we've got those, and then that next mission introduces us to the ninja class and the outlander class, which you can see we don't have any heroes in those classes yet, but we get introduced to them in this mission here, right? I just can't remember if it gives you a couple of heroes. I think it gives you a llama that gives you a couple of those heroes, if I remember. But we'll go through it, right? So you can see what Stonewood is essentially an extended tutorial. It unlocks a bunch of pieces of the game. A lot of the menu systems that you're not going to see are going to show up there, right? In this case, when we take a look at command, we don't see the research tab yet. There's a bunch of menus in here that are going to unlock as we go through, even though we have gadgets, right? Even though it says you have airstrike, but when we go to our hero loadout, right? Well, there's no spot to add gadgets yet because we haven't unlocked it. So, there's in the early game, the first couple missions, really the only thing you're able to do is you can choose a base hero. On the 3rd mission, you just unlock the first support slot for hero loadouts, right? But you still only have 2 heroes, right? You've got Kyle and you've got Ramirez. So key point is, lots of things will unlock through Stonewood. Don't be surprised if you're watching videos and they're making reference to things that you don't have. That's just expected, right? You really don't start seeing most everything unlocked until almost all to the end of Pinkerton, right? For reference, I am myself at level 56. I'm about halfway through these Canny Valley missions, and there are still certain things that are not unlocked for me, right? Certain aspects of upgrading schematics to certain levels, right? You can see that these have different levels here, right? When I inspect this one here, right, there's 4 stars and levels in there. I can currently only go up to 3 stars and level 30. To go beyond that, I haven't unlocked that yet because some of those ones don't unlock until we get to Twine Peaks. So, point is, I've been playing for 7 months and there's still parts of Save the World that still haven't unlocked for me. So, keep that in mind as you go through. So, I think I'll, for this video, I think that's sort of, maybe we'll do just, we did a little bit of a basic tour here. I think what we'll do for the missions is because these guided tutorial ones are interesting, but I don't know that it's that useful for me to sort of go through them with you. Perhaps I'll show you one here. Maybe I'll just do the Give Me 3 just to show you what I mean by the fact that they're guided. What I'd rather do though is that I've got I'd rather show outside of the guided tutorials what's the right strategy for doing these different types of missions, especially ones like like I said, I've got my video coming out for Fight the Storm and Ride the Lightning. You don't really need strategies for rescue survivors. There's definitely a strategy for retrieve the data. So I'll make some as part of the beginner's guide. I'll make some of those in there as well too, and maybe this will just be our our roll through Stonewood piece here. What I'll maybe do is I'll just do a bunch of these missions quickly, and maybe I'll make a bit of a montage video of what it's like to sort of roll through these. The important part is that one of the key things in the game to really upgrade your character early on is getting survivors and expanding your survivor squads. Right, so we go here to survivors. You're going to get a lot of different that's right. Go to survivors. And Ray's still sort of in tutorial mode, right? So you can take a look at your survivors you have. I just got my first lead survivor for scouting party, a couple of subordinates. As we go through though, right, take a closer look at it, getting better quality survivors in your first squad, right, and as you go through these squads, is what really brings up your power level and just makes the game early on say, hey, it doesn't feel like my assault rifle has much punch to it. Well, there's a couple reasons for that, right? One is just the rarity of the weapons that you have, but there's also an aspect around your fort scores, right? So we'll go take a look at your when you take a look at all of your stats here, see, here's power level, right? My offense is only 20, so I'm only getting sort of, I'm only getting a certain amount of offensive boosting on top of my abilities based on my power level, right? So there's a lot of things that come into, what makes your character stronger in Save the World. It's a combination of the rarity of the heroes in your loadout, right? What heroes you have and what rarity, right? As they get, from, epic to legendary, and some of them even being mythic. They have stronger base stats here around like health and shields, but also base damage for ranged weapons and melee weapons, right? So that is a big component of it. Your survivor squads add to that, right? So in this case, the survivor squad gives me higher resistance, right? And then based on that, there's also some different match abilities that come in there, right, over time, right? Trap damage, trap durability, those come into play. Right? So, early on, finding those survivor slots, the key piece here is into survivor squads. You can see that the survivor squad, and there are 8 survivor squads in total, right, when you unlock them all, but they all have the same structure. There is 1 lead, and there are 8 slots for subordinates. You have to unlock the slots over time, and this is one of those interesting things where you'll notice when we go to the quest menu, just take a look at that, right? So we just completed SSD2, and what did it unlock for us? It unlocked the scouting party lead, right? In this instance, it gave us the lead to sort of, unlock the scouting party. But let's go forward here, right? So we go through the next page and we go to SSD 3. Well, what does it unlock? We'll take a look in the right there, look at the rewards. Scouting party slot 3, right? So that just means that when we go back to this view, on the squads, that third slot, right, is going to, the third slot over here is going to unlock, and you have another spot for another survivor to increase the, right, the strength of that squad, which increases the strength of your character, right? As we go through here, we go to SSD 4, we unlock another squad, right? So now the Fire Team Alpha squad comes up, which I believe is an offensive squad, right? So that unlocks, right? And we go to SSD 5. It unlocks yet another squad, the third squad, which is an EMT squad, which does your resilience, right? Your shield, and I think your health and shield regen. And then I think we only go up as far as, so on the last page of Stonewood, page 8, we do Storm Shield Defense 6, which unlocks the fourth squad, which is the Corps of Engineering, which is a tech squad. So there are 2 of each type of squad. There are 2 that are dedicated to fortitude, 2 that are dedicated to offense, 2 that are dedicated to resilience, and 2 that are dedicated to tech. So by the end of Stonewood, you've unlocked 1 of each of the types of your fort squads, right? But the interesting thing is that in Stonewood, right, if you follow the quest line here and you finish this, it's naturally going to take you onto Plankerton, which is okay. But when you go to Plankerton, it's a new area, and you actually establish a brand new Storm Shield Defense base. It's a different map. It's a different zone. You drop down another shield defense. It actually looks different. And I can, as we go forward and do more detail on this, I'll show you what that looks like on my other account, right? The important part, though, is that the SSD defenses are separate for each area, right? So now we say, now we're starting over. This is SSD 1 for Plankerton because it's a different map area and it's a different base, right? So, I ran into this as a new player. I just sort of kept going on the progression, and I kept going, I kept thinking to myself, well, when do I ever unlock more of these slots for subordinates in my survivor squad? They never seem to come up. Well, right, what is sort of unspoken is that when you go do your SSD base here, right, it takes you up to SSD Defense 6. And then the quest line takes you on to Plankerton and just sort of ignores what's going on in your base because now it's focused on the Plankerton base. But you can keep coming back to this one. You can actually do SSD defenses in Stonewood all the way up to level 10. And every one of them you complete it either unlocks a slot in an existing squad or unlocks a squad itself. I'm fairly certain mostly there's just unlocked squads. So if it makes sense that even if you're doing the quest line and you get to the end of Stonewood and you move on to Plankerton, it's worth going back to your base in Stonewood and making sure you complete all of the SSD missions as soon as you're able to, right? The SSD missions get progressively harder. And if we jump in, maybe that's what I'll do for this video, sort of show. Let's just get to that. I don't know how to format. Let's just jump into this here, and I'll sort of show you a little bit about what I mean, right? It's important because if you just follow the quest line, no one ever really tells you to go back and finish these additional missions in Stonewood. I didn't know that for a long time. I had to sort of read it. So there's 2 things. Each area's base goes up to level 10 for Storm Shield defenses, right? There's 10 of them to do in each area. When you reach level 10, you complete it and you unlock, and this is another thing that people sometimes refer to, you unlock a mission type, which is called Endurance. Right? And endurance missions, you don't need to worry about those. Those are
use the Storm Shield computer to access your Storm Shield missions.
Things.
You can leave any time by selecting Leave with
But
Party from the Storm
you
Shield
will do
console.
10 levels of SSD missions, and then you'll unlock endurance missions for this area, right? And then you can move on and you'll continue to go through fights. So right now, what we'll notice here is that when I go here and take a look at this, look at my, on the top right there, I'm Storm Shield level 2, because that's what I've done, right? And so you're going to expand the Storm Shields with each one of those SSDs you do, right? And that means two things, right? As you go through, and this will be part of the guide going forward, and there are lots of guides out there. LARSIS probably has some of the best guides on this as for strategy and builds, but there's lots that are out there. Right? This is our main, this is our main Storm Shield case, right? And so this area over here ends up being, once you build it out enough, right? Most of the attacks for this on this base directly are going to come here from the east, right? So the first couple, I think the 4 missions, the first 4 SSD missions are sort of focused on this, right? In the last one we just did, right, an attack came from the south, and an attack came from the west, right? And when we do the next one, an attack comes from, I think, the east and the south, but they show you how to build some defenses here, right? So they go, okay, right, build some ceilings and some floors here, and they show you how to put some traps down, right? And you can do that mission. It walks you through it, so I don't necessarily, go through it with you. It's fairly straightforward. My video will sort of show, hey, what's a good base for this, right? The point is how these SSD missions get progressively harder is that when you'll see these areas here, and you'll notice that, I can't build on these, right? It won't let me. I can build around the exterior of them, right? But I can't build on them directly. These are potential locations for amplifiers. So what happens is, as you, right, this is your main base, and look, it's extending a shield, right? So we run out here, the shield goes out here, right? And that's as far as you can go. I can't physically go past the shield, and in theory, in the storyline of the game, this shield is keeping the husks out, right? Keeps them at bay, so to speak, right? For the most part, right? So the first couple of SDC missions, the husks are trying to attack this base, right, to try to destroy it, to get rid of the shield. You then get a choice on the first mission. I might rerun through the SSD missions first. I think that might be more important, right, as to which of these amplifiers you place first. I don't think it gives you a choice. I can't remember if either the one to the south or the one to the west is the first one. If you get a choice, right? If you do get a choice, it's either this one here on the west or this one here to the south, right? So these ones have to be done. So as you'll find that as it extends out, and I'll have to go on my other account to sort of show you, right? You can sort of see through. Here's another one, right? And as you go further and further out, they sort of extend out on this map here. You can see the base there in the middle. You don't really have any to the north, right? So to the north here is, and we'll get into this as a little bit of the lore of the game, right? But there's this big mountain backdrop where your SSD is, right? It's this big mountain range, and nothing really comes. It comes from the east, and the south, and the west. Nothing really comes from the nothing. Nothing does ever comes from the north, right? And there's a soccer field over here and a bunch of other stuff, and there is what people argue is really the Hestia base there in the distance. But there's no amplifiers back here, and the husks never come from this direction, right? So primarily, this is your main base, and you put amplifiers further out as you extend out to extend the shield bubble further and further out, okay? The point is that you don't end up having to place an amplifier in every one of those. And some of them are optional, right? In some cases, you don't want to. So a big part of the SSD missions is that as you extend those amplifiers out, it changes where the husks from certain directions attack, right? After you've placed this south amplifier, right? Any of the husks that come from over here, right? Any of these directions, they no longer go to attack your main base. They actually come here and attack this amplifier. So as we'll see, how you structure your defenses over time are going to matter based on where you're placing your amplifiers. So one of the key tips is in early SSD missions is don't overbuild these, right? Especially don't overbuild your main base. Right? I made that mistake a little bit where I really overbuilt this piece over here, right? So it's like, oh, I'm going to build this all up here. There's a, right? I built all sorts of defenses here and got all fancy with it, only to go, oh, well, but then you put an amplifier right here, right? And after you put an amplifier here, the spawn point for the husk gets pushed out as well, right? So right now, the spawns, right, the husk spawns are right here, right? And they ran at the base right here. As soon as I put this amplifier here, it pushes the spawn points down there, right? Which means the husk will now come up and attack this amplifier. At no point do the husks ever walk past this amplifier and go attack my home base, right? So, you know, the little tip and trick is that the only side of this base you actually have to build up is the one on the east. And like I said, we'll do a video on that. And like I said, LARSIS has a fantastic video on how to build this out. Right? He builds them for the endurance missions later on in the game, but they're good. You know, you don't want to do a lot of rebuilding on these if you can help it, right? So I would encourage you to take a look at those videos. I'll put LARSIS's first video in here about how to do, you know, the endurance run on these builds, right? Just to show what it would look like. But yeah, right. The main storm shield, once you get a little bit further on, will only ever get attacked from this spawn point right here. Right? Everything going forward, everything down on this side going forward, no longer comes here. It actually comes to this amplifier. So as we go through it, you'll see, right? Don't overbuild here because it's pointless to a certain extent, because, you know, doing a really crazy build on this hill that come from husks is completely nullified the second you put that amplifier there, right? Because now they don't spawn here, right? Right now they spawn here and they charge at the base. The second you put this amplifier down, just like the other one, the spawn point gets pushed way out there and up here off to the side, right? So just don't worry about that right off the bat. So I will admit to a full-on ADHD sidetrack on that one. Get used to it. It's going to happen a lot on this channel. The point was, the original point was, is that as you do those SSD missions, right, you only go up to 6 on the quest, right, normal quest line. You have to remember on your own to come back here and complete the other 4, take you up to 10, and that will unlock the rest of those slots in your survivor squads. Right? The game doesn't tell you to do that. Nothing tells you to do it. You just have to know that, oh, hey, there's still 4 more of these things to do here to unlock the endurance missions for Stonewood. And if you don't come back here and just look at them and do them, the quest, the storyline never really tells you to do it. Right? If you go take a look at the quests, right, you go here and go to quests and go to these complete main quests. They will be listed down here, right? Every time you...
Let's see that status report.
Yeah. Right? Every time you complete an SSD here, it goes on and it lists it as completed. And it'll tell you what the
good
next
reporting.
one
Just
is.
one small note. Let's maybe try not to cry in the war room. Even if the storm is closing in and our power reserve indicators are
right? So just
flashing
be
red,
aware that you have to come
which
back
is not
here
energy
before,
efficient at all.
and the reason you want to do that,
None of that matters
get
because
the
we've got
survivor
vendor
squads,
tech on our
and
side.
your hero loadouts,
Our
you can
sensors are
start.
picking up an active vendor tech research facility in this zone.
Alright, so that's what we really
Commander.
cover in this one. There's lots more to talk about SSD defenses in Stonewood, and what the strategies for that are, and what the best builds are, and we'll talk about that a lot more in future videos, but that is sort of all for this one today. So we will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.